the beauty that shamanism is attempting to articulate, and really any mystical tradition, is the raw emergence of the wisdom resounding through the immediacy of the emerging present moment of time. And to rewind it at all is to miss the glory of what it's articulating in the moment. And on some level, a big part of doing our inner work is designed to get us to a place where enough of us is out of the way to stay in pace with it as it's moving. We very rarely slow down long enough to let all of these ancient parts of us catch up, the parts of us that move at a different pace, the parts of the elders within us that are hobbling towards us with a cane, hoping that our hurried adolescent selves will slow down for long enough for them to catch up. And I think when we sit and when we slow down or we do movements like Tai Chi, we're allowing these parts of us to catch up. And when they do, they get to rest for a minute and have a drink of water that they so desperately have earned. And most of them are pretty parched when they get there. When you sit at the mesa, it's an opportunity to slow down. It's an opportunity to move at a slower pace. And if you're brave, don't move at all. Can I relax on every exhalation of my breath? Ooh, and if I'm doing that well, it's like, are you relaxing on your inhalation? Are you relaxing in the pause between breaths? Can you soften in this space? Can there be this radical allowing that takes place within you in relationship to the world around you? Can you relax and release no matter what comes up within you? Can you stay in a place of surrender? And every time I sit at the mesa, in some way, shape, or form, that's kind of the relationship that I'm bringing to it. And the parts of me that I'm having a challenging time surrendering within me, I have this externalization of my inner life present before me that I can work with in tangible form. I can't pick up the resistant part of me that got so wounded that it's afraid to be in the world because it was 6 and it didn't know how to handle an adult situation. I don't know how to grab that part of me. I don't know how to like cradle it and say, hey, everything's okay. You can stop freaking out. It's just freaking out. You know, that part of me is, it's living in a constant state of contraction, right? It's just like, please make this place safe. This place sucks. I don't like it here. And it's averting its eyes from the present moment, right? The same place that wounded it, the present moment of time, is the thing that it's afraid of. And in this process of slowing down, that's a part of me that I'm dragging along, right? I'm sprinting ahead with my life, and I'm dragging this part of me that doesn't want to be here, right? It's afraid to be here. And every single human being on this planet has, I don't know, 1,000 of them, 10,000. I probably got 100,000 of them. I have so many that I have to do this as my job. You know, I'm constantly integrating these reluctant parts of myself that are, on some level, throwing a tantrum because they don't want to be here. Like, that's my life. That's really that's what I'm doing in my off time when I'm not doing this, is I'm sitting in the woods by myself trying to lovingly coax all of these reluctant parts of myself back into the conversation, right? And at first I was trying to force them, and that didn't work. 10 years later, I softened a little bit and tried to bring food to them. That didn't work either. And eventually I realized that I needed to invite them. I needed to invite them back to the present moment. I was tired of shuttling food off just to the inner world and running ahead to leave food drops ahead for the parts of me that were going to be freaking out about a future I can't control either. So why don't I just get everybody on board and lay the banquet out here, right? And mesa in Spanish means table. It's the table, right? And if you want to invite a guest over, you usually lay out some food, right? Like some nourishment, some libation, some beverage, some sweets, some nourishing salads, right? The mesa is the proverbial nourishing salad for every part of yourself, right? It is set up with the intention to extend an invitation for all of the parts of the self to be able to come and dine at the table of the heart. And you are creating an artistic expression here as a devotional practice to yourself and to the world around you. And you make it beautiful to you, right? So that when these parts of us show up, right, it's almost like for me, and I don't know what this is like for other people, but for me, when the reluctant parts of me are trying to re-enter the conversation, if they've been wounded at all, and a lot of them have, most parts of us have, if you've been around long enough, these parts of us are coming back into the world, coming from a loop of that experience. And the reason they left is because they didn't like it here. It was painful, and they're still stuck in that wounded period of contraction. And when they come into the world, just like when we're born, they're super vulnerable, right? They're not really sure how they're supposed to be. And if they come in and you're trying to integrate and you're like in traffic and there's like people honking horns at you and like yelling at you, that part of you is going to come in and be like, no, this place, yep, it still sucks. I'm out. And it's going to go right back into the interior world, the upacha, the inner realm, the interior world, whatever you want to call it. But if you're sitting in front of a mesa and you've activated a ceremonial container, right? And you've said the rules in this container are every part of myself is welcome. No matter what it looks like or how tired it is or how grumpy it is or how wounded it is, it gets to come here and rest and get nourished and fed. And there's so few opportunities where we get to give ourselves permission to just be, to just relax and allow every part of us to come up for the love, right? And to be fed. And I'm pretty convinced that this is why this ancient Peruvian culture spent so much time building these epic ceremonial citadels on the top of mountains, right? They went to great lengths to cart stones from miles away and build these epic, beautiful ceremonial complexes, literally on top of mountains, where everywhere you look, it's just beauty, right? And it's not just beauty, it's intentional beauty. Like they made these structures aligned to the stars, and they made their calendars built into this system, right? The sun shines through this window at a certain time of year and casts a shadow on this beautiful rock carving that tells you that it's time to plant your seeds. It's like ridiculously brilliant, right? Everywhere you look, there's beauty and there's wisdom. And when the flowers blossom, the bees come uninvited, right? If you're trying to integrate a reluctant part of yourself and you're in traffic, one thing happens. If you're on top of the mountain at this beautiful ceremonial citadel, that part of you is going to come in and go, wait a second, this is not the place we left. Maybe the beauty in and of itself is enough to move into the field to explore, right? The power of beauty is an amazing thing. And that I referenced John O'Donohue earlier, that Irish mystic, poet, philosopher. And he talks a lot about beauty and the power of beauty. And I think a big part of why I'm such an advocate for communing with nature is that's the most epic canvas that's ever been. This moving canvas of living poetry, articulating itself so brilliantly that it's never repeated a word in 13.8 billion years. Like I've repeated myself at least a dozen times in the last 5 minutes. This has been speaking itself into existence in pure originality since the beginning of time. There's some wisdom there, right? And so what's being said now through the emerging present moment of time is literally this original verse, this spontaneously composed verse of poetry that's being effortlessly articulated around us. But we're around it so much that we forget how potent and wise and beautiful it is until we slow down, until we go out and we pause and we sit in that pause and start moving at a slower pace, moving at its pace. And when our pace matches its pace and we start moving in sync with it, we start hearing the beauty that it's expressing that we missed because we were moving too fast. I mean, that's the homework for the rest of your life, really. You will never exhaust the wisdom of the natural world surrounding you. And they said the first shaman had no teacher, right? The first shaman's teacher was the living world, right? In other words, you hold within you every ingredient in the recipe to move toward, through, and into your own liberation. I found that just undivided attention on the emerging present moment is usually enough, and the rest takes care of itself. So yeah, bring your container to the container and introduce it. Introduce the stone to the supreme container of all things, i.e. the world around you, the universe that world is contained in, and the spirit that flows through all things.